Before the computer, the typewriter, and the printing press, literary works of all kinds had to be copied by hand. This timely process was performed by scribes, also known as professional copyists, who replicated manuscripts and other texts manually for wide distribution. From roughly the 3rd to 6th century, Western civilization was essentially decimated by the barbarian invasions. But the moral and cultural underpinnings of the West, that is, all of the philosophical and religious works, such as the writings of Aristotle, Virgil, Cicero, St. Augustine, and Boethius, just to name a few, were preserved by the monasteries and abbeys of the Catholic Church. The barbarians destroyed human lives, art, agriculture, and even the libraries of Western civilization. But again, many Catholic monasteries and abbeys remained untouched. Catholic monks, therefore, who were reproducing manuscripts of the New Testament, along with works from the great Latin and Greek tradition, kept the West alive through their diligent work as scribes.
These monks that kept all these texts alive did exactly that. They kept these texts alive so that we had access, or people at the time had access to all the stuff that had come before. And a lot of these monasteries became places of education as well. Like under Charlemagne's empire, people went to these monasteries for education, and Charlemagne made it so that it wasn't based on money. Regardless if you were rich or poor, you could attend school at one of these. So they really continued to educate the West in catechism, but also in all of the sciences up until that point that had come before. So the monks, we can really say, like, they preserved Christian civilization for a very long time by their diligent work as scribes and also teaching.
Along with copying texts, Catholics were also translating them. One of the earliest examples of translation in the Church is seen in the Vulgate, a Latin version of the Bible. In 382 AD, Pope Damasus I commissioned St. Jerome to make a revision of the old Latin translations. In Jerome's preface to the Vulgate, he addressed the challenging task Pope Damasus gave him, writing, "You urge me to revise the old Latin version, and, as it were, to sit in judgment on the copies of the Scriptures which are now scattered throughout the whole world, and, inasmuch as they differ from one another, you would have me decide which of them agree with the Greek original." The roughly 2 decades St. Jerome spent translating paid off. The Church made the Vulgate the standard, and the 16th century Council of Trent made it the official translation of the Bible in the Roman Catholic Church.
Originally, Pope Damasus I had Jerome do the Vetus Latina of the Gospels. It was after he had done that Jerome continued his work, and his translations of many of the books won out against all of the other ones in circulation. One thing that's really important about the Vulgate is that Jerome had access to some Hebrew texts that were much older than the ones we have today. So his translation is also incredibly important for textual criticism and for understanding the original wording, because he had access to these Hebrew texts much older than what we have today. So we have to take his translation quite seriously if we want to do serious scripture scholarship.
Translations have always been of great importance in the life of the Church. In the 16th century, the Protestant revolt was underway, and this caused much confusion, to say the least. Heretics, many former monks and priests who apostatized from the Catholic faith, were sowing this confusion by their preaching, but also, thanks to the brand new printing press, by their own heretical writings. But arguably, the most effective tool the Protestants used in leading souls astray was their anti-Catholic Bible translations. William Tyndale, also known as the father of the English Bible, is a prime example. Tyndale based his translation on the Greek and Hebrew, not the Latin Vulgate. And on top of that, the heretical cleric deliberately altered many words. For instance, congregation was used for church, and senior was used for priest. This translation of the Bible spread like wildfire throughout England. The heretical New English Bibles not only altered words and phrases to sound less Catholic. Some heretics, like Martin Luther, even ripped out entire books of the Bible, 7 to be specific. Why did Protestants scrap these books of the Bible? Because those books explicitly contradicted their so-called theology. In response to this chaos, the Church put forth the first Catholic version of the Bible in English. Cardinal William Allen spearheaded the effort. The prelate asserted the new version had the object of healthfully counteracting the corruptions whereby the heretics have lamentably deluded almost the whole of our countrymen. Cardinal Allen commissioned one Dr. Gregory Martin to be the principal translator. Martin finished in 1578. This became the Douay-Rheims Bible.
During the English Reformation, the Elizabethan period, many Catholics had gone to Douai, which is the University of Douai in France. They went there as a stronghold, and it was there that as a service to the church that they wanted to translate the Bible to combat the many mistranslations of it that were from a Protestant bent. So they wanted to give a very specific Catholic translation of the Bible based on the Vulgate. So that's where that stems from.